Hey, good morning. Scott Luton and Jenny Froome here with you on the latest edition of This Week in Business History Live. Jenny, how you doing?
Hi, really great. Back from a month on holiday or vacation, so I can't complain.
Well, we are well overdue for a catch-up call. We got to talk that vacation on holiday. I saw some gorgeous images you shot. Of course, you've had the wonderful SAPICS conference, which was a month or two ago?
Yeah, 6 weeks ago, it seems like a
Six.
lifetime.
And we're going to touch on this here in a few minutes, the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. So all of that, but and a lot more, because today,
Mhm.
of course, is Biz History Live, right? As some folks may know, Jenny, Biz History focuses on the lesser known stories of leaders and innovation at the intersection of, you guessed it, business and history. Who would have thunk it? A new episode drops every Tuesday, which includes the replays of these live sessions with guests from around the world. And Jenny, you and I were talking about those handcrafted masterpieces that Kelly Barner continues to churn out earlier. And, so we kind of swap it every Tuesday. It's her stories, which are some of the best in the business on one Tuesday. And then the next Tuesday is kind of the replays of these live sessions where we touch on a little bit of everything like we're going to do today. So, Jenny, how's that sound to you first?
Well, I love, I was saying to you, my first one I ever listened to was the monologue about Rose Knox, which was about powdered gelatin. I learned so much. And then I've heard Kelly, I think she talked about escalators and where they
Yes.
came from and how they were developed. And she just takes everyday things that I guess we just take for granted. And as soon as she starts talking about them, you think, why have I never wondered about this before? So it's such a great thing to listen to. And I've learned loads of stuff I never needed to know, really. But it's stuff I'm really glad because I know I can bore people with all the exciting things I know about.
Well, that's the best from where I sit. That's been the best part of this series because it's like this episode here. Um, so the most recent episode of Biz History was a Kelly Barner produced show. It focused on John Wanamaker, the merchant prince, as she puts it, of Philadelphia. John Wanamaker was new to me, but Jenny,
Mm.
this gentleman he coined the word department store here in the States. He was the first retailer in the States to use price tags. And that's just the tip of the spear amongst all the innovations that he made. And you know what? Arguably, at least new to me, uh, I've never heard of John Wanamaker, and that's kind of the main thrust. We talk about some of the regular stories and leaders and innovators, but as often as we can, we try to lift up these stories that maybe history has forgotten. So, to our listeners, check out this latest episode wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, you can Google "This Week in Business History." And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. So, John Wanamaker, I'm assuming, Jenny, that was new to you as well.
Totally, utterly. There's a big acting family in the UK called the Wanamakers. I think Sam Wanamaker was American. So I
Okay.
wonder whether there's a link there somewhere. But no, very interesting.
Hey, blessed be the ties that bind, and gosh, you can do a little digging, and there's so
Hmm.
many great links that we all got to lift up and celebrate. Much like our links for years now, Jenny. After we
Yeah.
met in Chicago at an industry association event, we've collaborated a number of different ways, mostly focused on like supply chain and global business. And today, I'm so thrilled to have you here, where we can just really enjoy our time and talk all kinds of random factoids from the landscape of biz history. So, are you buckled up and ready to go?
I'm ready for all your random stuff, Scott.
Okay. I'll try to keep it random stuff and not ramblings,
No, no,
Jenny.
no. And I've found a few random things as well.
Okay.
So be warned.
Hey, really quick, want to give a shout out to the whole production team helping to make today's show happen. Of course, Amanda Luton's behind the scenes, ready to go. Catherine Hintz is behind the scenes, ready to go. Appreciate all of your good work here today. And folks, if you're catching us live, hey, use those comments. Let us know what you're thinking. We're going to be talking about things from hot dogs to candy to computer chips to Mandela Day, you name it. So we want to hear from you as well. Okay. So, Jenny, with no further ado, let's dive right into the first topic, one of our favorite things around here at the Luton family household. So I think we got about 5 things we're going to dive into today. So the first one here, Jenny, it's National Hot Dog Day here in the States. Now,
yeah.
the hot dog, yes, the highfalutin hot dog has a very long and complicated history. So for our time today, I'm going to kind of focus on the shortened version here for simplicity's sake. And it all begins with the German Frankfurter, which dates back to about the 13th century. Is probably the most ancient forebear to the hot dog. Now, the first to combine, Jenny, I didn't realize this was such a big mark in the hot dog's history, but it's really all about combining the sausage with the bun, which formed the modern day hot dog. And there's lots of claims, at least here in the States, of who was the first to do that. Sausage certainly is not it. Sausage is a celebrated global dish and all of its incarnations and reincarnations. But hot dogs here in the States, as we know them today, began to pop up around the beginning of the 20th century. So, Jenny, have you ever heard of Nathan's hot dogs? Nathan's Famous.
I think I have. I think it was in one of my favorite programs, which is we just mentioned it, but Somebody Feed Phil.
Yes.
And I think that he makes a big deal about Nathan's hot dogs. I could be wrong, but I have heard of them.
So, Jenny, I'm glad you mentioned that show because I know it's one of your favorites. You've shared it with us. I think they're in like season 2 or maybe even 3. So the world, all around the world, folks love Phil. 5, their 5th season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we can find that on Netflix, right?
Yeah. I just love watching anything about food and eating food and anyone else who loves food. So,
see, that's why we get along so well.
Kindred
we
spirits.
Strong kindred spirits in that regard. Amanda says, love Jenny and excited to hear her contributions today and every day. I'm with you, Amanda. And Catherine's getting back to the hot dog topic here. Does anyone else consider Costco hot dogs a highbrow delicacy? Catherine, I've heard so much about the Costco pizza. You got to tell me more about these Costco hot dogs. We'll have to talk offline. But Jenny, check this out. So this is a picture of the famous, the historic Coney Island Boardwalk here in the States in Brooklyn with that's Nathan's Famous hot dog stand, and folks enjoying it. Folks look like they're lined up for it. And this location here is where they have each year here in front of Nathan's Famous there, the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest on the July 4th. It's been held since 1972. And Jenny, get a load of this. This still blows my mind. I just don't know how folks do it. This year's winner on the males contest was Joey Chestnut with 63 hot dogs eaten. What?
Bread and sausage.
Yes, that's right. I don't know. I don't have the rules right here, but you've got to eat both the sausage and the bread. And sometimes I've seen, I don't watch this contest because it kind of makes me sick. It's a little bit too much. But you'll see them have water, like a glass of water, and they'll soak the bread so that it goes down faster. 63 hot dogs. But get this. On the female winner was Miko Sudo, 40 hot dogs eaten. I can barely eat 2, Jenny, even if I'm starving,
That's 63 is just unfathomable.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So all of that as we tackle our first topic here today. Let's get back to the delicious side of hot dogs with just, 1 or 2, the non-contest side. So, Jenny, we were talking pre-show, and I don't know, have you ever eaten a U.S. type hot dog? Okay.
I think I have. I can't remember. I mean, when I was little, I was brought up in America for 5 years. So I guess I must have eaten a hot dog at some point. Yeah. But I can't remember.
Okay. Well, as we were talking pre-show, it much like any kind of sandwiches, much like bread. I mean, it's really, the hot dog is like a vehicle that is just to get the condiments to you, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also, there's all kinds of different global variations of the hot dog, right? But here, even in the States, even sometimes within a state, within different regions, you've got different traditions for what goes on a hot dog. Mm-hmm. But when I grew up, Jenny, I grew up in Aiken, South Carolina, and this is the closest image I could find to the Carolina Slaw Dog, right? Now, you'll notice there's some chili on this hot dog. I I learned a long time ago what hot dog chili can do to your intestines. And it takes away from the slaw. But this is otherwise it's almost perfect, right? You've got a good soft bun. It looks like a red hot. You got slaw and mustard. I bet there's some onions on there. Only thing I would add is a lot of pepper and Tabasco, and that is my favorite slaw dog. But what is so you know whatever version of a hot dog, whatever version of a sandwich, what are some of your favorite condiments to put on a sandwich? We'll call it, Jenny.
Well, I'm a big ketchup fan, so immediately has to be ketchup. But also, I love anything to do with gherkins. So any kind of gherkin relish would just finish it off perfectly.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. You lost me at ketchup. There's a spirit. There's a spirited debate, and I say spirited. We have a little fun with it about ketchup on hot dogs in our family. Amanda and the kids doubled down on the ketchup. I think it is a travesty to put ketchup on a hot dog, but we'll save that debate for later. Now, Amanda, as I just point out, hot dogs, soft buns, ketchup, mustard, and loads of diced onions.
Yes, but isn't there also the debate? Do you toast your bun or do you not toast your bun? I mean, you haven't even gone there.
That's a great, that's a great question. I like a soft bun, right? Because I don't want the bun. If the bun's too big, it takes away from the condiments and the hot dog and the mustard and the slaw and all that working together. The bun is basically, well, get this, Jenny. I didn't add this to the notes. I didn't plan on going 20 minutes on the hot dog topic, but it's got such a fascinating history. In the States, when they first started selling hot dog type sausages, vendors would actually give their customers gloves because it was hot, but they wanted to get the gloves back, because they were losing the gloves and end up losing margins. So, and that is what, according to some, that's what gave way to the bun so that they didn't have to give away gloves. How about that?
That's amazing. You see, you learn stuff that you never knew you needed to know. Right. That's what I say. I've got another one for you.
Okay.
Did you know that Mickey Mouse's first words on screen were hot dog?
Really?
But he probably said hot dog, but still they were hot dog. So there you are.
Folks, you never know what you need to know. But, this week in business history, you try to prepare you for those bar games, those trivia games. Hopefully you can win a beer off your buddy by knowing something they didn't know. So that, Jenny, that is a perfect ending to the first topic of hot dogs. Now, Jenny, we're going to move directly to another food, another snack food, I'll call it. And that is the lollipop. So get this, Jenny. So in a generic sense, humans have been eating candy on a stick since the Middle Ages. Who would have had no idea? However, in 1908, George Smith, the pride of New Haven, Connecticut, began making large, hard candies, maybe like these, mounted on a stick. And as he was searching for a name, he must have been near a racetrack because George named his product after a racehorse of that era of the early 20th century. Lollipop was the name of the racehorse. So the name, Jenny, began to stick and began to catch on. Yeah, no pun intended. So much so that George Smith trademarked the name Lollipop in 1931. So it did well. Now, of course, you got Lollipop, you got Sucker, you got a number of different names. Jenny, what any local names where you are in South Africa for what you call?
Well, I think one of the brand names, a bit like Biro and a bit like Hoover that has stuck is the Chupa Chup. You've got that brand, and so they are known as that. But I think Lollipop is, and Sucker definitely here is one of the terminologies.
Well, I'm glad you knew where I was going, and I appreciate you bringing up the brands because, I am a sucker for – sorry, Jenny, I had to do it. Oh, my gosh. I can feel my 13-year-old's eye roll right now. But so Dum Dums, right, which if you're tuned in to the video side, you can see the images I'm sharing. The Dum Dums, these pop – for some reason, banks and Dum Dums just – they're hand in hand. Every time we'd roll through the bank, the teller window or something, this is what we'd get. And gosh, I hate to admit I can go through a bag of these like nothing, and they're really addictive. But the blow pops, perhaps Jenny, that made by Charms, that was like one of the best candies as a kid because they were bigger. You actually got a lot of the hard candy, and then better yet, there's bubble gum in the middle. So whenever, I tell you, whenever I had like even a couple of blow pops, I felt like I was living high on the hog as a kid, Jenny. But so Chupa Chup, what was that first brand you mentioned?
And I can't remember. What did I say? No, it's gone.
Chupa Chup.
Yeah, Chupa Chups. I think they were Australian. I'm not sure. And then suckers.
Okay.
that's the. But did you know that you call it hard candy? So all that, and in England they're called boiled sweets.
Boiled sweets.
Boiled sweets.
Really?
Yes.
That just
doesn't. That's your interesting fact.
That is an interesting fact. Must just refer to the cooking process. I can't imagine saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to ride up to the store to get some boiled sweets." It just doesn't quite roll off the tongue, or at least my tongue. But that's, we celebrate the differences that make up this journey. All right, so Jenny, one other question before we switch over to, I want to learn more about a couple things you've been up to lately. In candies in general, whether they're hard candies, chocolate, whatever, what's one of your favorite go-tos, whether it was as a kid or, this week?
Oh yeah, so you lost me at boiled sweets actually, and when I was thinking, no, I only love chocolate, but then I started to think about it, and we used to get these things called sherbet dips or dib dabs, and I don't know if you have them in America, where you get the lollipop and the sherbet dip, so you get two treats for the price of one, and it's in a packet, and that was really cool.
Hey, we're gonna have to exchange. We're gonna have to send each other gift boxes of our favorite candies. You had me at Sure I Love Sherbet. Amanda says boiled sweets doesn't sound nearly as appetizing
as hard candy. Hard candy just sounds like jaw breaking.
Right. Well, let's. So I want to move on from. So we've talked hot dogs. It's National Hot Dog Day. We've talked about that here. We've talked about the history of the lollipop. I've always wondered kind of where that term came from. So we've solved that heavy hitting mystery, right? It was a racehorse name, Lollipop, and a candy maker just kind of grasped on that. We've talked about some of your favorite candies, but let's, for a handful of viewers where you may be new to them, right? Because we've collaborated for a number of years. Let's start with, where are you right now, right? Where do you live right now? And then let's talk about, I want to talk about what you do with SAPICS, and then we're going to talk about the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Award. So Jenny, where are you right now?
Okay, so I'm currently in a place called Midrand, which is halfway between Johannesburg and Pretoria in South Africa. And I've lived and worked here for over 25 years, but I am originally from England and arrived here via all sorts of different countries. So this is where we've decided to hang our hats, and we've been here for 25 years.
Love it. And you're a wonderful global traveler. I've learned so much from your travels beyond the pictures. It's inspired us to get out and see the world and different societies more. I'm looking forward to coming to see you in Johannesburg for maybe the next annual event. So let's talk about SAPICS a minute, because for those 25 years there, you and the SAPICS team, you're a wonderful connector. You help facilitate learnings and education. We'll touch on that in a minute. So what is SAPICS? What do you do?
Yeah, so SAPICS is an association. It's a member-based association, but I guess in simplistic terms, it's a community. And it's a community of people who work in the supply chain profession.
Yep.
And, up until 2-3 years ago, at this point, people would have gone, oh, what's supply chain?
Right.
Those people who don't listen to Scott regularly. But COVID and all the disasters and everything have helped us enormously we can now talk beyond what is supply chain. And we can start to have more in-depth conversations about which part of the supply chain are you part of. So that's pretty much who we are. And we do events and we educate, and we just, like you said, Scott, we connect people to try to make people's lives easier by sorting out their supply chains faster and more efficiently.
And it's so, It's so important. I mean, it was important long before the pandemic. It's only grown in importance, especially as we all know, supply chain has enabled noble missions of all sorts. Especially when you think of healthcare, you think of the not the booster, the vaccine. You think of just keeping medical supplies, throughout the pandemic, or really any kind of contingency. So it's been very fulfilling and rewarding to see the global workforce that makes up global supply chain, that makes it happen, get recognized and kind of get their due more. But as Greg White likes to say, with that due comes a lot of responsibility, and you got to make it happen, right?
I find myself quoting, don't tell him, but I find myself quoting Greg a lot at that very first meeting that we ever had, where he talked about how many years supply chain professionals have been saying, give me a seat at the table.
Right.
And now you've got the seat at the table. What are you going to do with it? And that's the trump card. So
true.
I think that now is the time for the profession really to gain its rightful place.
Agreed. Okay. So I want to touch on one more thing before we talk about Nelson Mandela and Mandela Day. So to our listeners, stay tuned, because if you've never heard of Mandela Day, this is a great place to be, because you're going to be challenged and inspired to stop and celebrate that and do something about it every year. But before we get there, Jenny, I've got this image shared from the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards. I think a first year event. Right?
Yep.
Huge effort. It all culminated in a luncheon or a dinner this week. Big effort. Tell us more about what this program was.
Yeah, so the dinner was last night, so hence the sort of slightly tired looking eyes. Those are the magnificent flower displays that were in the middle of the tables, which were absolutely, all those flowers are South African. In the middle, you've got proteas, which if you've never seen them, they are the most magnificent flowers. And this time of year in winter, it's quite difficult to get any non-Indigenous flowers. So I think the florist did a magnificent job. Agreed. But the program is really, it was designed to highlight supply chains in Africa, because I think, in the past, a lot of people have sort of thought, oh, shame, Africa. And, do people know what to do in Africa? Because we've got all the best software and all the best this and that. And it's actually not true. And I think there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of, I know there is a lot of incredible work that's done on the continent. And so we wanted to create a platform where we could share some of the really exciting stuff. But we didn't want to do it just as SAPICS. And so we worked with a whole load of associations involved in the supply chain, from the industrial engineers to the Association of Freight Forwarders and the Road Freight Association, etc. And really it's the idea of it is it's for the industry, by the industry, like any good community should do, is just to build and highlight and showcase what's good in what your people are doing.
I love it. I know it took a massive investment of time, energy, love, elbow grease, and then some. I really appreciate what you and your team did there. I bet I've already seen, across social, some of what the recognition and awards have meant for so many different people. And that's got to be rewarding for you to see that, right?
So it was. I was just going to say, from the diversity of things like human hair being used and blockchain sort of working to detect the origins so that it's ethically sourced and ethically done, to making the lives of one-day-old chicks being transported better so that more of them survive the journey. It's these kind of stories. It's a bit like business history. All the things that you just take for granted that you don't know about. How do those happen? These were the things that were showcased and more. So I love exciting.
It. And we're going to, on supply chain now, kind of the mothership for what This Week in Business History is part of. We're going to try to do a key takeaways show so we can talk about some of those companies and awards and the meaningfulness of it all. So, Jenny, big kudos to you and the whole team, all the folks that help make it happen. And I appreciate your steady and relentless leadership in this regard. So, hey, look here. Sylvia Jenny, one of our favorites, is tuned in from Charleston.
Charleston.
Yeah, the wonderful supply chain ecosystem down there. She's a big leader in that ecosystem. She joined us for the Supply Chain Buzz last week, I guess it was, to give us an update on all the stuff going on in Charleston. So great to see you, Sylvia. Okay. And also she says to Jenny, thank you for showcasing the Forwarders Associations and the Motor Carrier Associations. Hey, a lot of good, hardworking folks and business leaders helping to make global business and global supply chain happen. Okay, but to our listeners that are used to biz history, right? I definitely wanted to make sure that we connected dots on all the cool things some of the cool things that Jenny Froome and her team are up to. But now we're going to get back to business history and legendary global leadership. So Jenny, just this past week, you shared with me, and folks, I'll be transparent about it. I wish I knew more about all the very special occasions we celebrate across the globe. Mandela Day was new to me, and I'm embarrassed to say that. But thanks to my dear friend Jenny, we're gonna learn more about Nelson Mandela and Mandela Day. So Jenny, please share.
Brilliant. Well, I think it's a bit obvious, you're in South Africa. Who are you going to talk about that's a historic sort of legend? And it's always got to be Nelson Mandela. And this week, Monday, was actually Mandela Day. So when Scott asked me, I sort of thought, oh gosh, what do I do about history? And then I thought, well, there's no better person to talk about, and then to apply what businesses are doing to support Mandela Day. It's not actually a holiday. It's an initiative, and it started, I think, in 2009. And for anyone who's been living under a rock for the last 30 years, Nelson Mandela was the first democratically elected president of South Africa. And he was an absolute activist and wanting to destroy apartheid and create a democratic country. And so he did this for 67 years. He fought for democracy. And so that's where the 67 minutes comes up. And the idea is that people once a year spend 67 minutes of their time doing something to make a difference. And the message is that all of us can do something small to make a difference. And it's one of those things that the mission says. He fought for social justice for 67 years. We're asking you to start with 67 minutes. So on an annual basis, countries and companies and individuals all around the country and the world, it's a global thing.
Right.
They choose something to do, which a lot of companies are using as team building events. So there are people who make blankets. There are people who go out and feed the needy. There are people who just genuinely do things that make a difference. And one of the things I think that people are trying to educate people is that we shouldn't just be doing it once a year. We should be doing it every day.
That's right.
And 67 minutes compared to 67 years. And then the 27 years that he actually spent in prison for the work that he did.
Wow.
There's and to come out and then try to alleviate the apartheid scars by reconciliation, not war, reconciliation. I think that it's just a hugely, and that's a very simplistic English person's view of this. But every year we're reminded of how important it is to do something, no matter how small, to make a difference. There's a wonderful saying that says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, you've never spent time with a mosquito. And so that's something, and I think that Mandela and his example, the people who sort of founded it and have made it an annual event around the world really deserve kudos, because it really does start with us.
I agree. And I'm going to get to one of your favorite quotes here in just a minute. I want to, Sylvia Judy says, we need a Nelson Mandela century. I'm with you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
And I also like, Jenny, I loved so much you shared, and I appreciate kind of how you couched it kind of from an English speaking person. because we all view these holidays and these journeys very, very differently. But to speak to his ability to lead and to drive change using reconciliation versus violence and war. Things have to change, but the manner and how we can drive powerful and impactful change, by building those bridges. Gosh, when blessed are those, blessed are the peacemakers that can drive change. So thank you so much for sharing about Nelson Mandela. A couple things I got from the foundation, the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Y'all can check out that on just Google it. This year for Mandela Day 2022, they encourage us to do what you can with what you have where you are, right? The 67 minutes, Jenny. And that gives way to one of your favorite quotes. So tell us about, share this quote with us, and why does it mean so much to you?
Education is the most powerful weapon with which you can use to change the world. And for me, it's so powerful because I've been privileged to have had a good education. And I live on a continent where education is not freely available to everybody, but there is a genuine desire to make the most of education. And if you think about every single thing that is challenging or not working properly, it's all down to education. And education is not just about textbooks. That's one of my favorite sort of things. It's about so much more than that. Sessions
Agreed.
like this are education in themselves.
One last thought here, and listeners, we're gonna hopefully you've learned something in the last just couple minutes. Really important learnings about an iconic, legendary leader and difference maker. That his work, great work, instrumental work, continues to give benefits and rights to those that are enjoyed. This very minute. Have you ever, Jenny, in the last couple of years, maybe in particular, as we've had more conversations, especially globally, remotely, unfortunately, we're gonna be changing that. But you ever stopped and broken bread or had a conversation with someone that appreciates their education so much so that it almost, you look inward and it's like, man, I've been taking this for granted. You ever have those conversations with those types of folks?
So often, and I mean there's one of our favorite sort of guests is Ramatu, who is constantly, and I think she's doing her PhD or in Liverpool at the moment, and she's doing so much research. But not only is she so values education, but she's passed that on to her children. And there are just so many. I remember going to Benin and seeing so many people who work full day jobs. And that's not just in Benin, it's not just in Africa, it's all over the world.
That's right.
But working full day jobs and then still doing degrees, and people having multiple degrees. And for someone like me, that's kind of, I just wouldn't be able to do that. So I've had to find different ways to educate myself. And that's by mixing with people who are passionate about being educated, because I kind of learn by osmosis, I think.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And by the way, Amanda or Catherine, if we could drop Ramatu Abdul Qadir, her LinkedIn profile in the comments so folks can connect with that, because she is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, from research, education, leadership, Ramatu is one of our favorites. That's right. I enjoy hearing her stories of being a mother as well. I think she's got 3 daughters.
3 girls, yeah.
And we've really enjoyed some of that perspective. Okay, so Jenny, up next as we move along. Again, thanks for sharing your point of view and context around Nelson Mandela, and certainly Mandela Day. We need to circle the calendar that July 18th, 2023. Let's plan on showcasing some of those folks that are making a difference. So let's we'll get that added to the calendar directly.
Excellent.
Okay, so back to more directly business history. Here's Business History Live with my dear friend and rock and roll star Jenny Froome. I want to share a couple birthdays, and there was a ton of July birthdays, by the way, Jenny. Of course, Nelson Mandela was born July 18th in, is it Mvizo, South Africa? Did I say that right?
Sounds good.
Okay. so of course his birthday, Mandela Day. Estee Lauder, the founder of the worldwide beauty and brands and cosmetics company, was born July 1st, 1908 in Queens, New York. Howard Schultz, Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks, who I believe, did he step back in as CEO? Did I see something like that?
Really? Wow.
I think so. Starbucks has changed so much, right? The pandemic's really shaped their business. So much of their business has shifted over to, just drive through, pick it up and go. And of course, Starbucks, I believe, if I'm familiar with their history, it was formed and their cafes were formed so folks could sit down and connect and work together. And, all those customer priorities and preferences have shifted so much. But Howard Schultz does a lot of great work from a give back, give forward standpoint. Was born in Brooklyn, New York on July 19th, 1953. And finally, Jenny, one of my favorites, fascinating figures in history, Amelia Earhart, was born July 24th, 1897 in Atchison, Kansas, old Greg White's home state. Jenny, do you find, I find her story so intriguing, and not just the, what folks are familiar with, kind of on the last chapters of her story, but just how she challenged the status quo throughout the aviation industry during her time, right?
There are amazing female role models in that. Beryl Markham, from a Kenyan perspective, was another who just kept on pushing and pushing because they knew that they could do it. And I think it's that self-belief and it's that courage that, women like me need to look back and be grateful to the strides that they made in doing different stuff that people thought women could never do. And like you say, sort of her life and her upbringing, to the point that everybody knows about,
right,
is kind of like the more exciting of the story.
I completely agree. Fascinating figure. The pride of Atchison, Kansas. Some folks may not know that she was born, and some of her formative parts of her journey were there in Kansas. Okay, we're coming down the home stretch, Jenny. We have covered quite the gamut today on This Week in Business History Live. One last story, topic number 5, I want to share about is one of the world's major players in the semiconductor industry. And Jenny, think about some of the things we've heard nonstop for 2 years. I'm not going to even mention toilet paper. I did it again. Toilet paper, of course, all aspects of supply chain, but certainly computer chips, right, Jenny?
Yeah, for sure.
In this day and age, it goes without saying, but you can find computer chips in everything, right? And more and more, automotive and other big industries lean heavily on computer chips, and it's put quite the strain on that industry. But one of the world's major players in the semiconductor industry, Intel Corporation, was founded July 18th, 1968 in Mountain View, California. If I'm not mistaken, I think LinkedIn is based in Mountain View, California. Intel was founded, get this, talk about quite the dynamic duo here. Gordon Moore was a chemist. Jenny, he coined Moore's Law. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. As you know, I've got certainly lots of technological limitations, and I'm not, no one confuses me for a chemist, but as I understand Moore's Law, it's like processing speeds will double, I think, every 18 months. It was a legendary rule of thumb that really has turned out to be pretty accurate. And so he coined that, Gordon Moore, and his partner, Robert Noyce, a physicist, and he is just the co-inventor of the integrated circuit. So quite a duo. So get this, Jenny, when it came to picking a name for the company, Moore and Noyce thought briefly about more noise, but didn't like the implication. So they ended up going with Intel from the full phrase, integrated electronics. So they put the first 3 letters of the first word and the last 2 of the second word. That's where Intel came from. Jenny, revenue in the first year in 1968 was about 2,672 US dollars.
Amazing. Amazing.
So, a few years later, though, in 1974, Intel would hit the jackpot with its first really big product, the Intel 8080 microprocessor, which was the world's first 8-bit computer chip. So, hey, don't ask me what all of that means, but it was a big deal. So big that it caught the attention of a little company called IBM, aka Big Blue. And the two companies made an agreement that all the future IBM computers, at least the next few years, moving forward from that moment in 1974, would use these Intel 8080 chips. So needless to say, of course, that was a big deal, instrumental to Intel's growth. Revenue in 2021, let's see, quick math here, about 53 years later,
Amazing.
Intel
I wonder
revenue.
how big they were.
Oh man, $70 billion was their revenue in 2021. I can only imagine with the huge.
But how big were the chips back then?
Well, that's a great question. And I don't know so I've got an image here, Jenny. I don't have an old image back then because I bet they were bigger. But get this. Look at this image. This is from, let's see, October 2020. This is a close-up of an Intel Celeron. And it's got a serial number there. It's a processor. And it's also, look at the backdrop here. The backdrop is grains of sand. Look at the intricacy and the complexity, and imagine the machinery and the production line behind it. That's got to be that accurate, and that attention to detail, just the complexity of the chip industry. It's amazing, huh?
Absolutely incredible. Mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And especially when you think about the products, of course, this thing
that
here,
rule our lives,
right,
that manage our lives. Absolutely.
Right. This, and I'm holding up my iPhone here, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the iPhone's got more technology and more capabilities in it than the Apollo moon mission, right? It's just amazing, that Moore's law, and just how technology, how fast it's moving, innovating, getting smaller but more powerful. It's amazing. So Intel, as Sylvia says, happy birthday to all of those business leaders, but to also Intel Corporation, that clearly is powering some aspects of our life every single hour. Okay.
So just going back to your microchip thing.
Yes.
Okay. This is one for your kids and for the eye roll. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
What do you call the crumbs at the bottom of a bag of Doritos?
Microchips.
Oh
gosh, Jenny, I'm gonna use that. I can't wait to use it with my dear Brantley in a moment to get one of her legendary eye rolls. They have come to like Takis, Amanda. I think the Takis, which are similar to a corn chip. Maybe I'll make sure I get this right, but Takis. So I'm gonna ask her what the crumbles are in the bottom of her bag of Takis. So stay tuned. All right. So Jenny, to all of our listeners, let's make sure folks know how to connect with you if they want to learn more about, you name it, all the cool things SAPICS is up to, all the give back initiatives you're part of. I know how important it is to you on a very meaningful way. The Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards, congrats on that first year success. But how can folks plug into the one and only Jenny Froome?
Thank you. I'm on LinkedIn, so it's very easy. It's Jenny, and it's Froome, Froome, Room with an F at the beginning and an E at the end.
It's just,
you'll find me.
Just that easy. And we're going to make sure your LinkedIn profile is part of the show notes. And I would encourage, if you're not already, connect with Jenny Froome, especially on LinkedIn, and see how you can plug into all the cool things she's doing globally, but especially across Africa. Okay, Jenny, really appreciate your time here today. Go out and celebrate the success of the awards program. Congrats. I really enjoyed your perspective, not just on Nelson Mandela and Mandela Day, but throughout our conversation today that really ran the gamut. To all of our listeners, Hey, thanks for tuning in. Sylvia, I really appreciate you tuning in and sharing a couple of things there. Big thanks to Amanda and Catherine behind the scenes, help making today happen. But folks, whatever you do, hopefully you enjoyed this Biz History Live. Join us again live in a couple of weeks. We'd love to hear from you. But whatever you do, hey, take a page out of Jenny Froome's book. Do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And hey, we'll see you next time right back here on This Week in Business History Live.